I guess we can get started. So there are more people here than I actually expected. And if you're here, it's probably because you don't know there are 2 Kubernetes talks right there. So I'm going to make you a favor. There are 2 Kubernetes talks there. So if you're staying, it's your fault if you miss those. So we're going to talk about Glance. And OK, they're telling me to, I hate these mics. I'm Italian. I need to move my hands. Damn it. So Glance, it's actually curious to no, I need to move as well. I'm Italian again. So Glance is one of those pieces that everyone ignores until your cloud breaks because of it. It's a very simple project, I like to say, or it's supposed to be simple. And we keep trying to make it more complex than it actually is supposed to be. So what I'm going to talk about today is the revamped image upload for Glance. The whys and hows. So this is going to be very specific to Glance, honestly. We're going to address the upload use case only, no downloads, no metadata whatsoever. So if you are familiar with the problem, great. If you're not familiar with the problem, I'm going to introduce it anyway. There's a cat. I've been told that having cats in presentations is good, so there's one for you. That's me. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. I don't really care. So just raise your hand if you have questions. Thanks for being here, I guess, especially right after lunch and knowing that there's a beach not far from here. I work at Red Hat. I'm still there. That's my Twitter handler if you want to follow me. If you like the talk, this is the first time I give this talk here, so it's brand new. I'm going to ramble a little bit throughout the talk. I'm used to being meeting so cold. So if you like it, tweet it. If you don't like it, don't tweet it. I'm just kidding. Just tweet it as well and give me some feedback. I love feedback. That's my email if you want to send some private feedback for some reason. Some disclaimers. Again, like I'm Italian, I speak fast, so I'm going to probably speak fast, which is good for the organizers because we are running a little bit late. So I'm probably not going to use all my time. I'm normally very explicit, so I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to say probably some bad things here, so don't take it on me. And yeah. So the problem, we have 3 use cases for the image upload thing, right? We have ops want to upload images because they want to provide those images for the consumers of the cloud. We have services that need to upload those images, and a good example of these are Nova snapshots. So whenever you have an instance and you create an image out of that instance, it actually has to upload that image into Glance so that you can boot from there later on. And then we have users that want to create images. And this was a neglected use case for a long time. We used to have Glance being proxied through Nova images, and it was normally hidden behind private networks and whatever, until we came up with a great idea of doing the version 2 of the API. And we say, like, hey, we have a new API, and you can use it for public clouds, except that you weren't supposed to use it for public clouds because I wasn't ready. But we still wanted you to use it because that's the goal of that API. We want Glance to be a first-class citizen in OpenStack. We want people to upload images. That is a real use case for the clouds, and we believe that people should bring their own kernel if they really need to. So this 3rd use case here is the one that we've tried to fix so many times that we think we understand the problem, but we really don't. So I think we have a better understanding now since we brought in a lot of people from everywhere, ops, and people from the DevCore team, people from other teams as well, to chime in with some feedback and stuff so we could come up with a better, hopefully, solution to it. So that's the problem. The real problem is that we fucked this up. We've done that like so many times. Like we've tried to address these 3 different use cases with 3 different solutions. We started with a V1 API, and we put in there external sources. We also put in there copy from, and then we decided to go with the version 2 of the API that is supposed to be public. And then we said, we're going to remove the copy from thing because who's using it, right? And then we said we're going to add locations, and we just made it more complex. And at some point we said, people need to import images from some other places. So we're going to reinvent the API. We're going to add a 3rd API, and we're just going to add tasks. And that just confused the hell out of people. And the API is just awful. It just doesn't work as we wanted it to work, and there's a lot of problems in there, and we're going to go through those. So glance uploads, right now, as you see, they're not resilient. If there's a failure, you have to start the upload from scratch. It's not going to kill your glance endpoint most of the time, but it's not resilient. Like, there's no retries. There's no way to fall back to some good retry code, good fallback for the issues that you might have uploaded the image. For instance, if it is a huge image, your tokens might expire, and then you have to just retry again from scratch because your network is low and your token just expired, and Glance decided to just shout and fail. Glance doesn't allow for verification. So this is a critical thing. This was one of the complaints of most public clouds about the direct upload of images, is that if I put Glance as a public endpoint and I allow people to just bring their own kernel, they might just upload something that is going to break my cloud because they're going to bring malicious images that are going to attack the hypervisor or do some weird things with VHD or who knows what else. So this was one of the complaints, and this is also one of the reasons why some folks started working on the task thing. So the idea is to have some background checks on the images that are being uploaded into the cloud so that we can ensure that those images are not malicious and they're not going to break our cloud. So this is a real use case, and we need to address this. Let's not talk about the Tasks API anyway, because I've mentioned it like 3 times, and it's just terrible. We don't want to go there. The API is not interoperable. The Glance API, depending on how you deploy Glance, if you have the V1 API, if you have the V2 API, you can tweak some things, enable some features, and disable some features. So you don't really know what's deployed there. You don't really know what the cloud has. So you can't really switch from one cloud provider to another cloud provider and expect your scripts to work. You might, you certainly will have to tweak your scripts and change some things in there because the APIs are not interoperable. And if you manage to make that work seamlessly, you're probably using Shade, and we would like Shade to die, actually. At least the Glance part of Shade. Like, we want to get to the point where everything is interoperable, and you don't really need, third-party scripts for interoperability issues. You might need them for something else. It is not discoverable. There's a problem that is not interoperable, so you don't know what's deployed there, and you can't even introspect the API. You can't even say, so Cloud, tell me what you have deployed here, and so I can, react based on what you have there. So it is not discoverable. There's no endpoints describing what's been deployed in the cloud, so that you can adapt your script dynamically. And the copy from is gone from V2, and this has been one of the complaints that we've gotten from some other cloud providers as well. So that's bad. I went through all the bad things. I'm going to start talking, hopefully, about good things about the Glance API, or at least the work we want to do there. So with all those bad things in mind, let's try to dive into what we really want. So what do we really want? We want interoperability, we want discoverability, and we want resiliency. We want the API to be resilient and react. So interoperability, it means it doesn't matter, like, we want your scripts to work with every Glance deployment out there. So we want you to be able to interact with several clouds at the same time with the same scripts and the same tools without having to change a single line of code, and without having to write your own library to actually do it. Right? We want the API to behave the same everywhere. So that's a main issue for us right now, and that's one of the places where we've put most of the thoughts on. And we've talked a lot with other people, like I said, in the community, like the DevCore committee and other folks that are very knowledgeable in this area. We want the API to be discoverable, so you don't have to know your cloud, but you can let your script introspect what's been deployed in the cloud and react accordingly. And we want the whole API to be resilient. So we don't want your uploads to fail. We know there are some images that are small. We know there are images that are big. We know things can happen in between whenever, from the moment you start uploading your image until the moment the image becomes active in Glance. So we want all that process, not like, there will be failures. I don't expect it to just always work. I hope. That would be nirvana. But I don't expect it to always work. But whenever it doesn't work, we do want it to give enough feedback, and we want it to provide the tools or the steps to move from, so that you can complete the upload at some point and retry it if necessary. So in summary, the API must be discoverable and allow for async processing without compromising interoperability. And this is, I'm introducing one thing here to the things I said before. We want to have the ability to do async processing on the image in Glance whenever you upload some bits in there. And this goes back to the point I mentioned before, where we need to have a way to verify the images. We need to have a way to do something on the images, because that's an actual need for some clouds that want to protect themselves. It's not just protection, it's not just verifications. You might want to just convert images as they come in, because you're using a very specific hypervisor, or you're storing your images, I don't know, in Ceph, and you want them all to be raw, because Ceph works better with raw images. So whenever we upload the image, we want you to be able to just have Glance doing the conversion for you, and instead of having the users doing that, which would be a real pain in the ass. Because if I have an image, I just want to put it there and be able to use it, right? So discoverability, async processing, interoperability, and obviously the API has to be well-defined, which makes discoverability easier. So how can we fix this? The solution we've come up with, it might seem like I'm going to go through it, and at the end you might say, like, duh, that was obvious. But it happens, it turns out that it wasn't obvious when OpenStack started and when the Glance project started. The use cases evolved from what it was before. And like I said before, we fucked the API so many times that we didn't even know what we were doing there. But again, this is the solution that we've come up with. We've taken at least, we're close to the year of discussions on this spec and this work, so hopefully some code will land soon. So it is a 3-step import process. There's the create step, which we all know. Whenever you run Glance image create, blah, 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 without passing the image data in, that's the create step we're talking about here. Is the process that is a step, is the call that creates the image record in the database, and it's a process that creates the image record in the database and makes sure that your data is consistent there, right? So something else has to happen after that, and this is the image upload, where you would upload the image bits into Glance, and then there's the import step, which is basically the new one. If we remove the import step from there, it might seem very similar to what we have today, which is you create the image and you upload the image. Done. You can do that in a single step now, which is awesome. But we need that third step. And some changes happen in between as well. So the create, it mustn't change. It has to be the same. We don't want to break backwards compatibility. We want you to be able to just add some few things to your scripts instead of changing them completely. And the image create process doesn't really have much issues in it, except that we need to return a couple of new fields to make this work. The upload step, this is a step we are specializing now, or one of the steps we are specializing now. It can be direct or from other sources. Direct means that you, the user, have the image in your laptop and you want to upload it to the cloud. So that's a direct upload. You do an HTTP put, whatever, and you put the image data into the cloud. From other sources means that your image is probably somewhere else. You have an HTTP URL, you have your image in Swift, whatever, and you want those bits to be consumed by Glance. That's the old copy from that we used to have in the version 1 of the API. So we're not bringing back the copy from as you know it, because there are some limitations that we have, and some limits we have to put in there. Like we don't want to support all protocols, all sources, and blah, blah, blah. So we want to have some extra protection in there. We're trying to take one protocol, one scheme at a time. And the first thing we're going to do is direct upload, and then we're going to try to figure out the rest as the API matures. Why multiple sources? Again, that's the copy from use case we used to have in V1. It is a common use case for some clouds that don't want users to just upload the bits from their laptops for some reason, because they probably have Swift deployed, and it would be better for you to deploy things. Upload the images into Swift and then consume those from Swift or having it in some other storage that the cloud is providing. So there are different reasons why you would do that, and I'm happy to go deep down that list later after the talk because I don't have much time left. So data is staged for processing. When the upload ends, your image is not really active, which is the real change here. Right now in Glance, if you do an image create and then you upload the image data, if the upload succeeds, your image will be active, which is not something that is going to happen here. That's one of the biggest changes we're introducing in this new upload path, and is that when your upload ends, your image will be in some new state called stage or uploading or something like that. I don't even remember. So it means that your data bits, your image is waiting to be processed before it can be marked as active. And then the import steps comes in. And when the import steps comes in, it will take the image bits whatever those bits were stored, and it will do something on it. It will process the image bits, it will analyze them, verify them. It really depends on what you want to do in your cloud. You don't have to do everything. The image processing, it can be verification, it can be conversion, or it can be nothing. If you don't have any need of doing anything on the image bits and you just want the image to be active right after, well, whenever the user or the third step is called, nothing will happen there because you don't have any plugins enabled, so your image will become active. So it really depends on the cloud, and this is something that users don't need to know. This is transparent. The only difference is that if you have a lot of plugins or a lot of processing going on in the back, it means that your image will take a bit longer to become active. We're going to keep the old upload, the old direct upload, the two steps one, the one that you create the image and then upload the bits and then it becomes active. And the reason we want to do that is because you don't, most of the time, I guess, I can't really think of why you would do that. So if you have a use case, just share it. But I don't think you want your images that are coming from Nova to be verified. Nova is supposed to be a verified service, right? So whenever you create a snapshot from your instance and you upload those image bits into Glance, you don't want Nova to wait until the image is processed for the image to become active, right? So you trust Nova, you keep the old path, you just create the image, upload the bits, and it should be done, right? It should be stored right into the backend, and it should be available for you to consume it right away. There's no processing that needs to go there. The image should be in the same state, in the same format, and everything. So we're keeping the old upload. And this is pretty much a state transition that's going to happen. In the old way, the image goes from queue to saving and active. Saving is basically when you're uploading the image bits. And in the new way, the image goes into uploading when you're uploading the image bits. And then it goes into importing when you call the import call. And then it goes to active. And they all converge into the same final state, obviously, which is the state that all users know. So, summary-ish. The entire API will be discoverable. That's one of the main goals. Although we've put more effort in keeping it interpretable than all the discoverability calls, which should feel more natural to write once we know what the API looks like. You don't have to support multiple sources. You can choose what source you want to support. If you want to support direct uploads, if you want to support imports from thirds, external sources, that's fine. We're figuring out with the dev core team what to do there and how that's going to be validated from a trademark perspective. But that doesn't seem to be a blocker as of the call we have last week. The old API won't be removed again. DevCore has been part of the design. I don't even know what I put there, but it sounds cool. Operating on images on upload is OK. If you really need to do that, you will be able to do that, and it should be OK for you to do that as long as you provide a good fallback for errors, because there could be errors if you're converting images or doing verifications or doing whatever you want to do with the image. So as long as you provide a good fallback and report the errors and make sure the user can recover from whatever failure that may happen there, you should be OK. Yes, there will be two paths for a load, so know what the fuck's here. We'll keep the old API because there's a use case for it. Internally in the cloud is not supposed to be exposed publicly. If you do that, that's on your own risk. We don't require that. But we do want you to deploy the first one. The task API is deprecated. Forget about it. It never existed. It did, but it never existed. Two new statuses, uploading and importing, backwards compatible, and we'll hopefully not fuck this up again. That's it. Questions? Please repeat the questions.
It's saying that you're not verifying the image. before that was the thinking of using very customized or just to verify what you need.
You're asking if I verify the images already? So no, we don't have any verification plugins in Glance yet. That's yet to be written by people that are interested in verifying those. One use case is verifying images that are going to be run by VHD, because you can upload random tarballs there that's going to blow up your cloud, basically.
Can you comment on the current status of image conversion on upload, which we're currently doing via task flow? Where's that going?
So if I can comment so Florian is asking if I can provide some comments on the current conversion support that we currently have under the task API. That's staying there. What changes is the API, the way you trigger it, but the plugin itself is going to be the same. So the under layer is not going to change. So the task flow thing and the task engine is going to remain the same. It's just going to be triggered by the third call in the API. So those plugins are still there, and they're going to be kept in the code base and still functioning, hopefully. Any other questions? No? Thanks.